hired. That's why he actually pulled the belt, and or it was either a belt or something that was around her to strangle her.
Yeah, she had, I guess, an apron on or something of that sort, possibly, when she was in the kitchen. Was that part of the account or not? I'm not sure. Was she dressed in
no,
her?
she
what
was
is it
still
called?
dressed in her evening clothes.
She had, the way that I explained it was that she was dressed in a long formal.
Okay, yeah.
But she didn't reveal nothing. It's like it was long sleeve.
Yeah, high collar.
Yeah, little white collar. I want to say it was blue, is the color that I'm picking up. She definitely had a brooch on. In the center here, not at the throat,
Yeah.
but more down here.
Yeah.
And her shoes they weren't just shoes, they were more like boots.
Yeah.
They were boots.
I think I invaded the space.
She definitely knew what was going to happen to her.
Oh, she did.
Yes.
Is that before she was grabbed or after she was
After
grabbed?
she was grabbed,
Yeah.
she knew. He apparently had made threats before,
Oh.
because this all had to do with passion and love. This murder had to do with passion and
Oh,
love.
okay. All right. Was she in love with him?
No,
or-
he was in love
He
with
was in
her.
love with her.
Hmm.
She wanted to, and I don't know why I'm picking up this, but I want to say she wanted to be a school teacher.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is correct, but I'm wanting to say she's wanting to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And she wanted to finish her career, and, finish her schooling, and he didn't want her to.
Oh, she was going to school then at the time, as well as being a kitchen maid?
No.
I don't
No.
think so.
She
I
had
don't
just
know.
learned how to read, actually. She was illiterate.
Okay, so maybe
Until-
that's explaining the teacher part. I
Yeah.
really think she really wanted to become a teacher.
Yeah, yeah.
I think she was fascinated with being at the school,
Hmm.
or being whatever it
Being
was
where
at the
the
time.
academic scene is, yeah.
Getting that job here changed her life.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes, absolutely.
It
did.
totally changed her life, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry. And I want to say that the guy that intervened all this was really nobody.
Oh, really? Did he work here on the?
No,
on
he
campus?
did not work here. No.
Did he know her? Well, he was in love with her, so he must
He
have
was in
known
love with her, yes, yes. But,
He had a bad reputation in town, he and his
he wasn't a
buddies.
good guy, let's
Yeah,
put it that
yeah.
way. He fell in love with her. I want to say that they had knew each other in the past, and she found out how he was. She
Yeah.
wanted to just cut the
Yeah.
ties. And when she went to the dance, he found out about it. He actually followed her here,
Hmm.
but someone was with her.
Yeah.
Another male was with her. But the male stopped here. He did not enter. That male did not enter.
Oh.
He actually told her good night. He just wanted her to get here safely.
And he walked away after, and this other individual came in? The one
Yes,
that
yes,
loved her? Yeah.
yes.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So she had nobody here to protect her. She was alone.
Exactly.
Oh.
John Titus wasn't even here,
Hmm.
wasn't even up here.
Yeah. Getting any more readings, David?
It's off the, it's crazy.
The more I talk, the more waveforms
You're getting
she's
information.
he's getting, sorry.
This is typical of,
Constantly thinking of her.
we're also studying mediums and how they work. And they receive these broadcasts. And this is very typical of a broadcast.
I do want to say that there was something on the stove when this happened. I don't know if she was heating boiling water, gonna make tea. I think I told you tea,
Mhm.
but I'm smelling it. So I want to say it's tea.
So the stove was there, and you said what was over here?
Refrigerator.
Refrigerator.
That's where she was, her back was to the door, and that's how he snuck up on her.
Oh, I see, he stuck up on her. Now, outside the door that was here originally, was that the outside area, or was that
I
an
want to
entrance
say,
into another room?
if I could go out there, I want to say that the way that they went out, no, I want to say it was just strictly field
Oh,
grass.
so it went right out.
But I want to say they went out this way and they hung this way
Yeah,
and then went back that way.
okay. I'm trying to get my orientation relative to the
I don't know where we're at,
library.
never been here before, so I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. But that's what I'm feeling.
I did actually see pictures, old pictures in the archives, not a layout. And it ended right there. And there was the furnace, like the furnace building.
It was like a boiler building.
Yeah. And I think that and the stables, I think that was it.
That was it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't much, it was just the main
I
building.
feel it was driving
couple
her
of,
in a
auxiliary
diagonal
buildings.
that way.
Yeah. I
But
don't know if
never
the
made it
library's
to
in
where
that
he was
direction or not.
trying
That'd be
to.
interesting.
Once he realized what happened,
All the way back, but that's wasn't there, and that's where she was
Oh,
found.
yes, right, that's where it is, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, once he
She
realized.
has no idea where she's at.
I have
So
no-
she
Yeah,
I've-
doesn't-
Yeah,
She doesn't know.
I've only been here, what?
Spiritually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about me.
Yeah. You've only been here once indirectly through a telephone call,
Yeah.
remote
Yeah.
viewing, so.
So,
Has the feeling kind of dissipated yet?
No.
We still have- She's still here? And,
she's still here. She
And
wants
you're-
it cleared. She wants the story to, she wants it to be told correctly.
yeah. As to who the murderer really was, huh? Yeah.
Can you tell anything about her family? One of the things I'm trying to do is reconstruct her family life. I've gotten the old census records, and her mother left when she was 11.
I was just fixing to say, as a, a young girl, and as far as her father, I'm wanting to say that he passed. I feel that she was raised by an aunt. I'm trying to get the lines right here, hold on. I'm wanting to say that it was either a great aunt, not a grandmother, more like a great aunt.
That's easily verifiable, I guess, if we can check back in some records, I suppose, so
Yeah.
we can do that.
And if, I don't feel that the dad was around much, I feel he worked and was always gone,
Yeah.
so,
That was her life, in other words, that's her background
They
and
were
so forth.
very
yeah.
poor.
Yeah.
and their
miners,
relatives-
was he a miner?
There were
I don't-
mines in the area. No, he was a farm laborer. He was in the Civil War as an officer. But when he came home, he was a farm laborer. They were all illiterate, which I don't understand. Because her father's brother was very, very wealthy, and they owned like thousands of acres
He
in
did his
the
very
area.
well to
Whose
them,
bro-
though, huh?
Whose brother?
Her father's brother.
Her father's
He had
brother.
the rest of the Smith family was well-to-do and prominent, and yet her father.
I just don't feel that the father was in her life as much as she wanted him to be. I feel that she had someone else.
She had an older sister who was much older, an older sister and a younger sister. And the older sister stayed there until she was probably in her late 20s at the house, even when Tillie was working here. So maybe it was her that helped raise her.
I'm picking up older So, I mean, and not,
We're talking about Tillie the ghost
so,
and
Yeah, something
trying
like
to
that.
find out if there's any kind of representation of her manifestation here. And what's being examined is electromagnetic force or fields in the vicinity. And we have a person who is an empathic person. She's experiencing information coming from what she thinks is Tillie, the so-called resident ghost here at Centenary College. So follow us through.
Look at that. There is no way I can reproduce artificially this waveform.
Oh, you managed to
That's
snap.
amazing, isn't it?
Wow, wow. You want to take a picture of this waveform? Maybe someone wants to look at it themselves and
Yeah.
analyze it to a certain extent.
we always like it if,
We are totally open to
yes.
analyzation,
Yeah,
debunking. Absolutely.
To scrutiny, huh?
Absolutely. Everything we do, we put out for scrutiny.
Good,
And we
good.
hope, that someone can debunk it and say, hey, I know what's causing that. So far, nobody's been able to, so.
Are you still experiencing anything involving her presence through this?
Oh, yeah,
empathic
she's right
method?
beside me.
Oh, she is there yet, huh?
Yeah.
Hmm. I wonder what will happen as we leave here and walk up the steps.
She'll probably stay with me.
Oh, she
Knowing
will.
now that I can sense her,
Hmm.
she will stay right with me.
Just
And what does that
we need
mean?
More
How long will
spirits
she
at
stay
our
with you?
house.
Yeah.
Well,
I've
I
already
did a
got 3 or 4
little,
there.
I did a little protection prayer, and I'll definitely let her know she has to stay here.
Okay, because otherwise you'll have a house full of spirits.
Well, we do that now.
Oh, you do have? Oh, good grief.
Yeah, so,
We
but I
live
will
in an old
definitely.
Victorian.
And she might end up anyway, but I usually try and protect myself. That's why I wear my crystals and
Oh,
everything
okay.
else. I keep my protection rocks in my pocket.
Yeah, I figured that's what they were, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm usually pretty,
Amazingly, there's a science to the power of stones, too. Everything has a resonance.
I'm almost sweating.
Now, what other kinds of instruments do you think might be instruments
Well-
that could be used to record any kind of presence or field of activity
One of
that
the-
you're experiencing on that?
Right. One of the things that we
Device.
would do would be a follow-up experiment. And we would come in this area, we would set up a device that I built. It's called a EMF quadrilator. Fanciful word for a real simple basic concept of I have 4 sensors that are very directional that I place around the area of effect, and I run them, and all they do
Oh.
is data log the output of each sensor. So literally what we'll have, and we also run 4 microphones to compare with it. So literally what we'll have is 4 different sensor inputs and then 4 different microphone inputs, all going into a data logger.
Different orientation for each one.
Right, well, they're all pointing
Right,
to
but
try
they're all
to determine
pointing
the
field,
to the
you
right.
emergence point
Yeah.
Right.
of the signal we're picking
Yeah,
up
yeah.
here. Once we find the emergence point, what I'm gonna guarantee you is gonna be right in this area.
Hmm.
We would take a very sophisticated array of equipment and start measuring things like static energy,
Yeah,
ionization of the air molecules, gravity fluctuations along 3 different axes,
magnetic fields, I would imagine.
magnetic
Yeah.
fields, the Earth's magnetic field as well. We would also monitor EMF emerging out. We would
Yeah,
try to
yeah.
record EVPs. We would continue working with, another thing that we look for is emerging ultraviolet light.
Oh,
We also measure for gamma radiation. Gamma radiation bursts occur when these portals open, when these conduits open up. And it's because for a wormhole to be stable, it requires something called exotic matter.
Hmm.
Exotic matter is matter that has a negative mass. What happens when exotic matter comes into contact with our matter is it begins to annihilate, and it annihilates at a subatomic level. In other
Yeah.
words, particle level, Planck level. If it annihilated at an atomic level, we'd have huge craters everywhere because there'd be
Mm.
thermonuclear explosions.
right.
But the key is it's doing it at a Planck level, at a
Quantum
particle level.
you say.
So we're getting these high energy bursts of gamma radiation,
Wow.
and they're just pops. 350 millirad per hour bursts, which is significant to cause you damage if you were exposed to it long term.
So those bursts of radiation, you know, come from some kind of entity that might be there in that field?
Well, it has to be some type of annihilation. No, this is the interesting thing. 90% of what we measure has nothing to do with the spirit entity at all.
Now, what-
It has to do with the effect of the conduit on the environment. In other words, when that wormhole forms, it's dramatically altering our environment, dramatically in a very localized area.
Now, when does it form? Under what circumstance?
Well, we don't know
Don't
what
know
the
that.
circumstances are.
And that's in connection with the spirit entity?
What the
Somehow or other?
spirit, let's use the folkloric term, the spirit entity utilizes this conduit to interact with our environment. See, when we die, we don't stick around here. Our energy goes to where we came from when we were born.
Now, it said some of these entities stick around in order to...
But they don't.
Oh, they don't stick around? I mean, they
come
move back
go.
and forth through
They
that?
come and go.
Ah, okay.
There's never been a reported instance of a place being constantly active 24/7. It comes and goes.
Yeah, yeah.
So what happens is these wormholes form, they stay active for a period of time, and then they collapse. Once they collapse, the
Yeah.
activity ceases for a period of time.
Yeah.
And that wormhole may form 10 minutes later, and the whole cycle starts all over again.
Okay.
It could start 30 seconds later. It could
Yeah,
start
yeah.
2 years later. There's no rhyme or reason, and we can't predict that yet.
Yeah.
What we can predict is when we begin to get this emerging EMF patterns that look like this waveform,
Yeah, yeah.
we can make a certain number of predictions that will come true. We're going to know we're going to find gravitational fluctuations on 3 different axes. We know we're going to find EMF of low frequency, generally looking like brainwave activity. We know we're going to find time anomalies, where the actual way time travels or passes speeds up.
How would you measure that? How would you measure time
A
analysis?
fascinating device that we built. We take 2 very, very accurate crystal oscillators, and we beat them against each other, and we get a resulting frequency. We're using 19 kilohertz, accurate out to 8 places crystal oscillators. Well, no matter how accurate they are, there's a differential, because we're dealing with quartz crystal. So there's impurities. The end result on our device is 700 hertz. So no matter what, we get a constant 700 hertz differential frequency. When these things start happening, the pitch bends upwards. It goes up to like 9, 10,000 hertz.
Ah,
The only thing changing is time.
yeah.
So, and we use piezo coolers on the oscillator, so temperature isn't a factor.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
keep the oscillator's temperature constant.
Okay.
So the only variable is time in the mathematical equation. So it's an ingenious way.
So if something changes, then
Something
it's
changes.
time changing.
And time changes because
how would time change?
because
in
there
terms
is a, because there is an anomaly in time-space.
Would
What
that
we're
change?
having is a bending of time-space. in this
Forward or
localized
backward?
area.
It's
It's actually
either
going
direction?
forward. It would actually be speeding up.
of- Oh, okay.
Because what's happening is we're getting a bend in time-space, a localized bending of time-space that's not being caused by gravity.
Yeah.
It's being caused by something else. And that something else is the formation of the wormhole.
Okay.
And this particular kind of wormhole is not coming from somewhere else in our universe. It's coming from outside.
Now, can you make a connection between what is here called Tillie the ghost, whatever you want to mention about her in terms of what kind of entity she is, or maybe
Right.
a field or something of that? So, can you connect that somehow to your idea of this wormhole connection?
Well, we believe that there's an
How would
afterlife.
Tillie be?
Okay, so that, we're made up of energy. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, so it stands to reason that something of us is left behind when our physical body dies. Well, I have studied numerous accounts of near-death experiences. People explain going down a long, dark tunnel with a bright light at the end
Yeah,
of it,
that's
emerging
usual.
into this wonderfully bright world that's energy with their relatives,
Mm.
and they're totally explaining a wormhole.
Oh, is that what they're doing?
If they were walking through a wormhole, that's exactly what you would see.
Hmm.
I believe that when we're born, our consciousness travels through a conduit, through a wormhole, to the womb, and deposits that consciousness there. I believe when we die, the same mechanism takes our consciousness back to where it came from.
Now, Tillie is still here, though, or she's traveling back and forth?
She's coming back and forth.
Back
She's
and forth.
utilizing a wormhole, and what would be neat is to follow up with some very sophisticated equipment to try to detect the wormhole forming,
Hmm.
And I would even, well, it'd be kind of difficult. Some of the things we do is try to detect quantum vortexual activity using smoke, like theatrical smoke.
No, you couldn't do that.
Couldn't
here
do it
very
here,
well.
we've got
Yeah.
smoke detectors. But that's something else that we do. We look for vortexual movement
Yeah.
where none should be.
Can any force like this, whatever you want to call the manifestation,
Sure.
have the ability, because we've heard of poltergeists,
Sure, absolutely.
have the ability to
Telekinesis.
move things and whatever else along
Energy
those
is
lines?
capable of doing anything.
Is there somehow to incite Tillie, or whoever you're investigating, to go through with that kind of activity, to have that ability to move objects?
Well, it takes a tremendous amount of energy, obviously, to do that.
I would imagine.
And depending on the condition of the manifestation, it may or may not be possible. One of the things that we do is we take in a 500,000 volt Tesla coil, and we'll run it for a brief period of time in the environment. And that tends to add energy to the environment. And for some reason, I don't know whether we're aggravating something or feeding it,
Yeah.
but it tends to increase that activity by artificially raising the level of energy in an environment. So more energy available to manipulate, more energy can be used to manifest.
The reason why I asked that question is because, as some have heard, there seems to have been some kind of manifestation that involves poltergeist phenomenon, or whatever you want to call it, in various areas on campus here.
Absolutely.
Some of the
certainly
buildings.
would be.
And I guess, I don't know if it can be attributed to a specific force or entity like Tillie,
Absolutely.
or it could be maybe others that might be in the area as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. The differentiation of it is very difficult, because unless something identifies itself in some manner, shape, or form,
Yeah.
you have no way of knowing what you're dealing with. This is why it's kind of nice working with a medium, particularly a medium that has a very high success rate, because they pick up more details that we can later confirm historically to add to the strength of the evidence she brings. Because see, I treat a medium just like an eyewitness. It's the same kind of evidence.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, eyewitnesses are not great pieces of evidence, but they're a part of the evidence chain.
Yeah.
And you have to take it into account. So a medium is merely a witness, another witness that has to be interviewed and their information taken and put into perspective with the rest of the data. Oftentimes it's helpful. Sometimes it's mysterious and you have no idea what it means. Other times it may have no correlation at all.
Yeah, yeah. Now, at the present time, where would Tillie be? Is she following Tracy around yet?
Well, she's probably still over there. I think Tracy's over there doing some EVP work.
EVP? Oh, okay, that electronic voice phenomenon.
Phenomena, right, the hunting for
was.
the audible voice.
That is what I was doing.
Did you hear anything?
Yeah, I did. I actually asked her how old she was, and she said 18. I heard 18.
Yeah.
So you're hearing that energy in a form of sounds,
No.
or voice, or your
Now, what I heard was through EMF. There
The
are
microphone
times I can
picked it
hear
up.
audible, but through this, it's EMF.
There are actually
Oh,
two
okay.
kinds of phenomena dealing with the human voice spectrum. One is electronic voice phenomena, which only equipment picks up.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's also audible phenomena, which the human ear
You
picks
can
up.
actually hear it then. yeah.
Mechanical energy.
So if I
Which
ran a
I-
recorder right now, in some instances, I'd be able to pick up some voices
Absolutely.
of
Absolutely.
whatever it might be.
Absolutely. You could also physically hear it if it's an audible voice. Now, this brings some interesting things up because in order to move air and create mechanical energy, you have to have mass.
Yeah.
So somewhere, if you can hear it, there's some kind of mass generating that air movement.
Right, it has to be sound is produced by the motion of air,
Yeah,
the air molecules.
that's
otherwise
exactly
it wouldn't
right. You
sound.
have to have a medium for sound to travel.
Unless it was transmitted by the electromagnetic energy, which then could be converted into sound.
But
as you're
something
talking
has to
about.
convert it. You have
Yeah,
to have a
something's gotta-
transducer.
Yeah, right, right.
And in the absence of a
Right.
transducer, we have to assume that its
Yeah.
source is mechanical energy.
Yeah.
So we're looking at an acoustic energy that's forming, that has to be formed by some type of mass. Now, whether that mass is visible, or whether it's dark mass, or what,
Yeah.
we don't know. But I always tell people that if you hear something with your ear,
Right.
start looking around and paying attention to the environment,
Mhm.
because something may be manifesting in a very disassociate manner. That,
Mhm.
you know, not like a person standing there, but something that's just a blob may be appearing that's like a diaphragm moving that air.
Hmm.
We don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's got to be something physical generating that acoustic wave.
So Tracy still is experiencing the presence of what we're calling Tillie, I would imagine. And Tillie, we're talking about Tillie, we're talking about empathic feelings that you're receiving from her. So it is a person that you're receiving this, well, something that was a person originally, that you're receiving this information from.
Right,
So
she's
it is-
letting me know how she felt that night. When I was standing over there earlier, I mean, I felt fear, I felt scared. And he pulled her from behind to here. When she was able to turn around, that's when she grabbed something from the stove
Hmm.
to try and fight back, but
Yeah, yeah.
it didn't.
Now, what's preventing her from leaving this, what do you want to call it, dimension or realm completely, and not coming back and forth?
I
like
can
that?
answer that real quick, because her story is unclear. It's not clear to anyone. She will not rest until it's clear.
How would she want it to be made clear, I wonder? That's an interesting, in the newspapers, in a blog, on a computer, how would she want it to?
She wants
Transmitted.
someone to explain, to talk, to tell her story. She wants someone to tell her story. And once the story is told, she wants that person to come back. And she wants the readings done again
Oh, okay.
for, I guess, verification.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so that means that on the basis of what you're saying, you should be coming back again, I would imagine, sometime in the future. Is that what
I
you're
would
saying?
love to. I mean,
Okay.
it's up to Tillie.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
leave that up to Tillie.
Sure, sure.
Tillie, do you want me here to tell your story? We'll see what she says.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, that's really interesting,
Yeah.
really interesting.
So,
Is our time running up? I want to make sure that we're not overstaying our time in terms of, well, we spoke about an hour. I don't want to leave you, Tillie, but,
We're at 9:35.
and we started at approximately 8:15, more or less.
yeah, we'll
Something like
definitely
that,
be
8:30.
back, Tillie.
So
Okay.
there's room for editing and that sort of
Now,
stuff.
how will we get out the information as to who her murderer was? And you said you were aware of who her murderer was.
I got a name when I did, I'm going to leave this on because I want to see if she reacts. The name that I got when I did the remote viewing from Texas was Frank.
Frank, huh?
Mhm.
No last name, just the first name, Frank. huh?
I only got Frank,
Yeah,
but I did not get a last name.
Huh.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
I start getting information, I totally go into another world, another dimension, I don't know. It's hard for me sometimes to even remember what I
Certainly another
said.
Group of dimensions.
I
Only a
mean, there's
strange
times
living
where I won't
dimension.
even remember what I just told you. You know, you'll end up having to tell me back what I said.
Yeah, yeah.
Or a recorder, usually.
Now, will we have a chance to hear the recorder after you finish with cleaning it up to a certain extent? Will we hear-
Absolutely. We'll
Oh,
clean it up,
Absolutely.
bring it
Yeah,
back,
we've
sure.
been on for 49 minutes.
Hmm.
49 minutes.
Okay, so that would be interesting to see what's on there, obviously. Everybody's interested here, I'm
Yeah,
trying to find out
definitely.
what's been recorded on there.
Yeah.
Now, will it be a clear voice?
The only thing that I do not like contaminated evidence, which with people coming through and talking and
Yeah,
hearing
yeah.
people, is contaminated.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
to be able, good evidence, it needs to be blocked off.
Yeah,
But, we'll do what we can.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
okay, that'll be good, that'll be good.
there,
Be interesting.
you know, there's things you can do to help bring it out. And normally when we do EVP work, it's very quiet.
Yeah, I
We don't
can
have a lot of-
understand
No, I
that.
don't.
Understand that.
Because these
Yeah.
will pick up a whisper down the hall.